Well, there's still no winner in the 11th Congressional District special Democratic primary held last Thursday to replace the seat formerly held by Governor Mikey Sherrill. The race ended Thursday night with results that were too close to call. But as the night went on, the most progressive candidate in the race, Ana Lilia Mejia, had a come-from-behind surge to take the lead over the previous frontrunner, former Congressman Tom Malinowski. Mejia has maintained that lead since by less than 1,000 votes, even as mail-in ballots continue to be counted. More than 90% of the votes have been tallied, but the few thousand left could cement Mejia's lead or turn the tide for Malinowski. Mejia joins us now to discuss the results so far and why she believes her message resonated with so many voters across the district. Ana Lilia, great to have you with us. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Clearly, your message has resonated with enough voters to get you into this position that you're in right now. We don't know what the results will be finally, but what do you think it was about your message that did resonate?
I think, we were honest, we were bold, we made a point to connect with people where they were at. I spent the last 9 weeks, 10 weeks hitting the ground across this district, connecting with people. We held trainings and town halls. You would find me often in the morning at a train station talking to voters and commuters about the problems that they face on a daily basis. And then I was incorporating that message into my own narrative, into my own messaging. And I think that's what ultimately brought home the day. I'll also share that the truth is I jumped into this race later than most candidates. I didn't have the backing of a political party or machinery. And so while vote by mail, for viewers who understand, vote by mail is a very intensive process, and chasing vote by mails is a very intensive process. And I was ready to start the night with maybe a little less than I would have desired on vote by mail, but I knew that we would come in strong on election night, and we did.
Well, what's interesting, you raise a couple points there. Yes, the early voting was the vote by mail voting, and that is where Malinowski surged. But as the day of votes came in, that's where you were able to pull ahead. You say you didn't have the backing of the county machines, the political machines, the political parties. You also didn't have the fundraising. And I'm curious how you overcame that, because Malinowski was able to significantly fundraise more than you.
So when I jumped into this race by an internal poll that was circulated by, I believe, the Malinowski team, I only had 5% name recognition. So I understood that I had to increase my name recognition and define myself to the voters, which when it's people power that actually delivers the day, in my opinion. That's why we were at every town hall that we could put together. That's why I was at train stations every morning. That's why you would find my volunteers across this district knocking on doors, making phone calls, because I had to define myself to the voters. Once they understood what I was about, once they understood that I was unafraid to speak truth in this moment. We are in the middle of what feels like, a democratic backslide in our nation. We are very concerned about what we are seeing in terms of ICE overreach across the country. And we do feel that our economy is stacked against middle class, working class people. I think that message resonated with Democratic voters in this primary, and I believe it will resonate with the electorate come the general.
You've aligned yourself with some of the most progressive Democrats in the country. You got the endorsements of Senator Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren. Do you believe that that is the voice of District 11, that is the desire of District 11 to be a very progressive district? It, by the way, previously was very purple.
Yeah, well, the district was redistricted after Mikey Sherrill won it. I was proud to work with many organizers and community groups to make sure that happened in 2017. I would say that here's the bottom line. The folks that endorsed me actually have been growing the Democratic Party, have been bringing in younger voters, more diverse voters, engaging the electorate. So, while we speak of left, right, or progressive, centrist, what I'm actually trying to center in this moment is how do we address the needs of working class, middle class, working poor people? How do we name the things that are keeping our families up at night? And how do we we propose solutions that make sense for our families.
Yeah.
I've lived in this district for 13 years. I'm a progressive. I have neighbors who are progressive, but I also have neighbors who find themselves more at the center, but they still are drowning when it comes to credit card debt, childcare costs, healthcare costs, housing costs, and I think that is what matters.
Let me ask you this. AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, sunk millions of dollars into this campaign to really attack Malinowski, your chief opponent here. In the end, maybe in a twist of irony, they may have supported and buoyed your campaign. What do you say to that?
From the beginning, from the moment I jumped into this race, I had expressed my opposition to dark money spending in our electoral system. I believe that the biggest problem we in fact face in our government is the outsized power of big money, of lobbyists, of corporate interests that place themselves before the electorate. I think it was shameful what AIPAC did to Tom Malinowski, but they sent voters a clear message. What they essentially told us was that if you have the audacity to think for yourself, to listen to your constituents, to use your own connect with people and understand, yes, use your own judgment, that you would find yourself in opposition. If you're not lockstep, if you're not following exactly what they want, even at the expense of your own constituents, they will sink millions of dollars to derail the voice and the will of the people. Frankly, I'm saddened. I'm angry. I was against it from the beginning, but I don't think that that's what made the difference. What made the difference for us was that we knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors and made hundreds of thousands of phone calls.
Yeah.
We made sure that we moved thousands of volunteers.
We have to stop it there, but I want to thank you so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us. No worries. Ana Lilia Mejia will keep an eye on what happens in this race as they finish counting the votes. Thank you so much.